I'm bored. Cholera. Now it's Poosonal. Welcome, Nikki. Next to Nikki Gets Bored. I've got us a new episode, new hair color, new topic, cholera. We're also going to have some trivia. If you've been watching, we've already discussed and learned about the bubonic plague, smallpox, and typhoid fever. When it comes to diseases, you are already brilliant. My guess, you'll be able to deduce from what you already know and correctly guess about the new diseases. So let's jump right into cholera. Cholera is a bacterial poop disease. The technical term is an acute diarrheal infection caused by Vibrio cholera bacteria, aka bacterial poop disease, right? Silly fancy pants names. The bacterial poop disease, cholera, is similar to typhoid fever in that you get it by ingesting contaminated food, contaminated water, and contaminated poop. That's right. Once again, the derriere and the place for air are getting too close. Nikki Nags, we know that our hands, they get dirty. Little pieces of poo can get on our hands and then they end up in our mouth. Ew, that's gross. Come closer. If we know the fudge maker and the pie hole are going to eventually dance, make sure there's room for the Holy Spirit, by which I mean wash your hands. Cholera causes diarrhea, but this diarrhea is super juicy. It's sometimes called rice diarrhea because it's so light in color and, liquid. The bacteria live inside the intestines and in the diarrhea. It creates a vicious butt-to-mouth cycle.
Ew!
Cholera's other symptoms include vomiting, thirst, dehydration, leg cramps, irritability, which, who wouldn't be irritable? The dehydration causes a rapid heart rate, skin tightening, dry mucous membranes, and low blood pressure. Severe dehydration can lead to kidney failure, then shock, a coma, and finally death. It's not slow either. Death can happen in a matter of hours. Dehydration is no joke. Hail hydration! We don't know what caused cholera, but we know it came out of India due to an infected rice crop back in 1817. It spread, of course, throughout India and into the east, hitting Russia, China, Indonesia, all the eastern countries. I'm not going to list them, it's all of these. Then it spread a little west into the Middle East, then it died down in the area. Time for our first trivia question. Around 1824, cholera infections calmed down in India and Asia. Did cholera, A, stay calm, not returning for years? Or B, did it continue to spread, getting other areas sick? Answer, B. Of course it kept spreading. We know this. It went west because of trade. Wanting nice things is why we can't have nice things. Cholera spread to the easternmost part of Europe. Then it spread further into Russia, China, and all of Europe. By 1831, it reached England. This period from 1831 and onward is considered the second pandemic. The world has had 9 cholera pandemics, at least in written history. The most recent was in 2010 in Haiti and lasted a year. From the 9 breakouts, over 1 million people have died. There is good news. The bright side. Of those that come in contact with the cholera bacteria, only about 20% become infected. Of those 20%, most people will get over it on their own. However, some do get it worse, and for them, well, the treatment is pretty easy. Let's see if you can guess it. Cholera is an infection that causes massive dehydration. The poop chute becomes a rice water spout. What should we use to treat it? A. Enemas, castor oil, and gastric washing. B. Bloodletting, opium, and whiskey. C. Hydrate and antibiotics. D. Plug the anus so liquids can't leave. The answer, C. Hydrate and use antibiotics. Hail hydration! If you guessed any others, don't feel too bad. The other answers were all things doctors actually use to cure cholera. I guess with enough opium and whiskey, you won't care if you're spouting rice diarrhea and dying. Hydrating is the big answer. For most people, rehydrating is enough. You want to make sure you are replacing what your body is losing. If someone has a bad case, they also get some antibiotics. Easy peasy. Next question. Did doctors use rehydration back in the early and mid 1800s? Answer, no. They used enemas, opium, and shoved things in so nothing would come out. They didn't even think it was contagious because not everyone around the infected got sick. We know only 20% catch it, but back then they didn't know and assumed it must not be contagious. There were scientists and smart people types focusing on the study of cholera. They were coming up with answers that were proving correct. But most doctors believed miasmatism was to blame. Trivia question. What the heck is miasmatism? I'll give you a hint. My asthma is acting up from all this miasma. Remember that doctors thought illness came from bad air. They called the bad air miasma. Miasmatism is the thought that there is bad air that carries illnesses. This is what the world believed back in the 1800s. Religions had their hand in this too. It was preached that you could keep miasma away by being godly, and those who were sinning were the ones getting sick from miasma. This led to more discrimination towards the poor that got sick more often than the rich. The rich thought they were being holy when really they just had money to keep things cleaner. Let's talk about some of those smart people that were studying cholera. First up, an Italian microbiologist named Filippo Pacini. In 1854, he found the cholera bacteria. He could grow it from the infected poo and describe it. He figured out it inhabits our intestines if we're infected, and he figured out the importance of water in the spreading of it. Remember how gross England is at this time? Poo went in the drinking water all the time. Unclean water leads to illness. 30 years later, no one remembered poor Filippo Pacini. Poor guy. Another man, a German bacteriologist named Robert Koch, rediscovered all the same things. He didn't know it was already known. Even back then, it was about who you knew and not how hard you worked. Poor Pacini. It was Koch that got the credit. Koch was brilliant. He figured out anthrax and tuberculosis. He's a bacteriologist hero. So the person that found the cholera bacteria is actually two people. Koch, who usually gets the credit, and Pacini, who didn't get his words out to the world like Koch did. Let's go back in time to 1849. 5 years before Pacini figured it out, a man named John Snow, not that John Snow, though this is going to be an epidemiology studies joke for a long time. Kit Harington, so handsome. It's this John Snow, handsome in his own way. He figured out it was the water supply causing cholera to spread. He did this by studying two cities' outbreaks. He wasn't even an epidemiologist, he was an anesthesiologist. He was putting people under for surgery or sedating them for medical procedures back when it was still really dangerous to do. He was so good at it, he was selected to give chloroform to Queen Victoria during two of her children's births. Snow's studies led him to discover it was the water that was infected. He also figured out germ theory was true and suggested hand washing and good hygiene to stop the spread. He figured it out about the time a woman washed her baby's diaper and then poured that water into a cesspool that led to the drinking water.
Ew! Unsanitary.
Are you happy? We live in a time when not mixing poop with drinking water is common sense. Next question. What did the people of John Snow's time say to John and his theory? A. Good idea, John, thanks. B. Let's do more testing. C. You know nothing, Jon Snow. If you watch Game of Thrones, you know the answer is C.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah, so the majority of physicians chose to ignore his research and advice. Doctors would treat someone who was dying and then head over to give birth to a baby without washing his hands. Can you even imagine? Next question. Did the media, A, give truthful and helpful information to the people, or B, give false information, causing panic and more death? The answer, B, they gave their opinion instead of facts and made people panic. They caused Asian hate crime to raise. They scared people from hospitals. Although back when they weren't washing their hands, the hospitals really weren't safe. Most people treated hospitals like a place to go and die. But by the time of the next guy I'm going to tell you about, people did know to wash their hands, and hospitals were much safer. They had treatments for cholera, but thanks to the news, people were afraid to go for treatment. Many died. Sidebar. Can you imagine the number of deaths we could attribute to bad news? I bet it's a huge number. I wish the news would not give opinions, just facts. Let individuals make their own opinions. Sidebar over. In 1832, a doctor named Thomas Lott from Scotland decided to test the theory a few doctors had. The theory was to inject water with a salt mix into patients' veins. They had good results. It was rehydrating patients. Hail hydration! That means we had a working treatment before anyone figured out where cholera was coming from, if it was contagious, or even what it was. I've been throwing out a lot of dates. I've listed them in order so you can see the order of discoveries, and they're all sorts of weird. Cholera reaches England in 1831. 1832, 1 year later, a cure was figured out, but almost no one used it. In 1849, Snow figures out cholera is in the water supply and germ theory is real, but it isn't believed. 1854, Pacini figured out the bacteria, that it could spread by water and lived in our intestines. 1875, doctors realized Jon Snow did know something. Doctors started washing their hands. 1884, Koch figures the same thing Pacini did, getting the news out there this time. 1950-ish, rehydrating with salt water for cholera patients became common practice. We had a cure 1 year after cholera reached England, but no one used it for 70 years. How wackadoo. Eventually, saltwater infusion became the #1 treatment. Over the years, the mixtures changed. Scientists realized we needed some sugar too.
Give me some sugar, baby.
So that was added. I imagine like a souped up sports drink shot right into your vein. Now we have rehydration pills. I don't even know how that works, but that's so awesome. I love modern science. It's the same treatment, hydration, but futurized. Cholera is still around today, and there will be another endemic, if not something bigger. But we are prepared. We shall drink plenty of fluids and report to a doctor if it doesn't get better quickly. How did you do at trivia? I hope I've proved you're brilliant. As usual, I've only touched the surface regarding cholera and epidemiology. There's so much more information. Don't hesitate to learn more. It's very interesting. Never stop learning. Now, time for a poem. I ended up writing a blues song. I started writing it, it just poured out. Unfortunately, I can only make music with my mouth and my brain, and no one wants to hear it from my mouth anymore. So I'm going to read you this blues song about how poop can sometimes end up where it shouldn't. Ever since I was young, I was sure of one fact. The mouth is in front, the pooper's in back. The flow goes one way, it just seems to track. Watch Niki gets bored, nearly had a heart attack. And it's so bad, but poop gets in our mouths. We all could get exposed, might lead to a colon blow. How it got there, I don't know. Poop gets in our mouths. It doesn't go there, but it gets there somehow. You know, 'cause you hurt way down in your bowels. The people outside can only hear howls. You look around the bathroom, wow, it's foul. And you shout, poop got in my mouth. I must have been exposed. It's led to a colon blow. How'd it get there? Tacos with Joe? Poop got in my mouth. There's cholera, typhoid, and who knows what else. We must wash our hands, take care of ourselves, do unto others as you do for you. Clean up before eating and after the loo. And it's so sad. Don't let poop get in your mouth. Be careful, don't get exposed. Being unsanitary is how it grows. Let's keep things a one-way flow. Don't let poop get in your mouth. I really like that one. I hope you liked it too. There isn't an ALS update today. I had one, but decided last minute not to share. It was a little mean, and I spent years being needlessly mean to others. Now that it's fixed, I'm trying hard to only be nice. That's what I'll ask of you. Please be kind to others, especially those that don't deserve it. People who are mean are usually mean for a horrible reason, like their parents didn't show them love, or they have a medical condition messing up their brain, like I did, or they've only ever been treated that way. That seems like a horrible existence, and it's why they need to be treated with love the most. How can you act with love if you've never seen the script? So please practice being nice to mean people. They need to be shown what kindness looks like. All of you nice Niki Nacks out there, be a blessing to others and take care until I see you again. Much love. I'll see you when Niki gets bored. Hail hydration.